warning certain ethnic communities that a Liberal government will decriminalize hard drugs, even though the Liberals have said that is not in their plan. They're not going there. And just now, without any evidence, you're saying that the Liberals and the NDP would need to raise the GST to 7%. No one has said that. So I want to know, why dabble in this kind of misinformation campaign?
Well, it's not misinformation at all. We know that the Liberals are contemplating these types of things. The Liberal Member of Parliament, star Member of Parliament, leading Member of Parliament from the Liberal benches, Adam Vaughan, was pushing for these types of policies. We know the capital gains tax on primary residences is something that was put forward. And the excuse that it's not in their platform, well, Justin Trudeau did a lot of things that wasn't in his platform after 2015. And so you'll pardon me if I don't trust him on that. On decriminalization, of course, we know that many Liberal candidates are advocating for this. We know that it was considered by the Liberal members of Parliament on the Health Committee. We know it's something that the NDP supports. So this is clearly the type of thing that Canadians need to be concerned about during discussions between Liberals and NDP to form a coalition government. Now, as for the raising taxes, we can be sure that taxes will go up to pay for an NDP coalition. This is the coalition that you cannot afford. And so Justin Trudeau needs to come clean. He needs to have the guts to tell Canadians exactly which taxes he will hike in order to pay for the deal between the NDP and the Liberals to form that coalition. He needs to come clean. If he's so sure that Canadians will endorse that, he needs to put that before Canadians in the next few days so Canadians can make an informed choice on October 21st. Alors, c'est clair que les libéraux ont contemplé, considéré les choses comme les nouveaux taxes sur les résidences personnelles premières et les décriminalisation des drogues dures. Et c'est clair qu'avec une coalition entre l'NDP et les libéraux, il va avoir dû augmenter les impôts pour payer pour les grands déficits.
There will be a hike in taxes and big deficits. So if Justin Trudeau is so confident that Canadians want a coalition government between the NDP and the Liberals, he should have the courage to explain exactly which taxes he will raise in order to pay for that coalition, and he must do that immediately so that Canadians can make an informed choice on October 21st.
My follow-up question is, Adam Vaughan, the candidate you keep pointing out, has gone on CBC News repeatedly, has gone on other news outlets and said it is straight up not true. I have obtained the documents that you're referencing. It was not presented as a proposal. It was an idea that was collected at a town hall that was included in some documents. It was not included in that pitch. And as part of my follow-up, the raise in the GST, no one has said they're going to do that. Why? Did you just pick it out of thin air? It doesn't, there's no evidence.
Back to the principal residence, sale and principal residence. Under this Liberal government, under direction from this Liberal government, the Canada Revenue Agency has started to track information related to the sale of principal residences. So that is clearly something that they have initiated under this Liberal government, and we know that this was a policy submission to the Liberal platform. As it relates to raising the GST, we are showing Canadians the types of costs that will be associated with this massive amount of new deficits. They will have to make choices. They will run these massive deficits, $40 billion of new deficits alone to pay for the NDP Liberal coalition promises. That money has to come from somewhere. Raising the GST from 5 to 7.5% is one option. If they are not going to raise the GST, they have to explain which taxes they will raise to pay for it. And that is my challenge to Justin Trudeau today. If he is so sure, if he is so sure that Canadians want an NDP Liberal coalition and these massive deficits, he needs to tell Canadians exactly which taxes he will raise to pay for it, and he needs to do that immediately so Canadians can make an informed choice on October 21st.
En français.
Sous Justin Trudeau, sous les gouvernements
Under
libéraux,
Justin Trudeau and Liberal governments,
agence de revenus a commencé de
Canadian Revenue Agency has started to collect information on the sales of principal residences. So it's clear that this is something they're considering. And with the example of the GST, well, in order to pay for those big deficits, they will have to hike taxes. The GST is just an example. If it's not the GST, Justin Trudeau has to have the courage to explain to Canadians exactly which taxes will go up to pay for the NDP Liberal coalition.
Glenn McGregor, CTV News. Mr. Scheer, we've heard a lot about the nastiness of this campaign and the tone. Yesterday, Jagmeet Singh said he doesn't respect Conservatives. I'm wondering if you feel the same way about New Democrat supporters.
You know, I respect all Canadians, and I respect people who have a different point of view. And my role is to convince Canadians and show them how my policies will lead to a better Canada and make life more affordable. And I can disagree with people without insulting them. And I've even had members of my family run for the NDP, and I still certainly respect them, and we still have lots of great conversations around the dinner table. I respect
all Canadians, whatever opinion they may have or what party they support. And I can tell you that as the leader of the Conservative Party, it is my role to show Canadians the benefits of our platform. And there are members of my family who did run for the NDP in previous elections, and I have a lot of respect for them as well.
In that spirit, a few days ago here in Fredericton, I asked Justin Trudeau what he liked or admired about you, and he said that you appear to be a good family man. Without borrowing that response, I'll give you the opportunity to say something back about him, or that you like or respect about him.
I respect the fact that he is sacrificing a lot for what he believes in. I disagree with what he believes in. I disagree with his policies. But anybody who enters public life and puts themselves through everything from the media scrutiny to the travel, the long hours, so I certainly do respect his dedication.
En français.
C'est clair que chaque personne qui présente pour
It's
le
clear that
service
any
public
person
a
who
beaucoup
runs
de
for
défis
public
et beaucoup de
office faces a lot
sacrifices,
of
et je peux
challenges
apprécier la
and
dédication que
sacrifices,
Justin
and
Trudeau
I
a
do
pour ses
appreciate Justin Trudeau's
politiques.
dedication to
Je
his
suis pas en accord
policies.
avec ses
I don't
idées ou
agree with
ses-
his ideas
ou son plateforme, mais je
or
peux
his
apprécier
platform, but I can
travail
appreciate
dur et la
the
dédication.
hard work and the dedication that he showed.
Radio-Canada, vous allez en
Radio-Canada,
Beauce
you're going to be going to Boast
Est-ce
later.
que si vous réussissez à
Now,
battre
if you are
Maxime
able
Bernier à cette
to beat
élection-là,
Maxime
un, c'est la
Bernier in
fin
this
du Parti
election,
populaire, et deux,
one,
c'est
that
une
will be the end
victoire pour
of the
vous de
Popular
défaire Maxime
Party,
Bernier en Beauce.
and will this be
C'est
the last time you'll have to defeat him?
tous les sièges.
Well,
Et,
it's
nous avons,
our
des-
plan to
des
win a
bonnes
lot of
raisons d'être
seats, and we
confiants,
have good
en
reasons to be
Beauce.
confident about the
C'est pas
situation
à
in
moi de
Beauce.
décider
It's
le
not up to
futur
me
de
to
notre
decide
parti,
on the
mais,
future of our
pour toutes
party,
les personnes qui sont
but
tannées de
for
Justin Trudeau,
everyone
tannées
who's
de
fed
ses
up with
déficits,
Justin
tannées de
Trudeau,
la
fed
façon
up with
qu'il
his
a
deficits,
représenté le Canada
and the way
au
he's
scène
represented
mondiale,
Canada
c'est le
on the
Parti
world
conservateur
stage.
qui
It's the
peut remplacer,
Conservative
c'est moi
Party
qui
that can
peux
replace
remplacer
him.
Justin
I
Trudeau
can
comme Premier
replace
ministre.
Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister.
Sure. So it's always a victory when we win seats, no matter where they are. And we have reasons to be very optimistic in Beauce, and we have a great candidate. Nous avons une candidat excellent.
We have an
So I'll be
excellent
there to
candidate.
support our great candidate. As to the future of that party, that is not for me to decide. But I can say to every Canadian who is tired of Justin Trudeau's high taxes, massive deficits, and the way he's embarrassed Canada on the world stage, it's the Conservative Party of Canada that can replace the Liberals, and it is me who can replace Justin Trudeau.
Au Québec et un peu ailleurs au pays, il y a de plus en plus de gens qui
and in the
disent
country, there
voter
are many
stratégique le
people who are
21
saying
octobre. Il
that
faut
people
défaire les
have to
conservateurs. Il y a une menace
strategically
que si les
vote on
conservateurs
October
reviennent, il va y avoir des
21st to
compressions en
defeat the
culture, l'environnement
Conservatives,
est
because the
menacé aussi.
Conservatives
Qu'est-ce que
will
vous
cut
pensez
and the
de
environment
ce
is threatened.
défi de
What do you
voter
think of the
stratégique? Est-ce que c'est une
challenge
bonne
of
solution?
strategic
Alors,
voting? Is it a good
c'est
solution?
des mensonges de notre
Well,
plateforme.
those are lies about our platform.
Mon appel pour les Canadiens, c'est de voter
My appeal to
stratégiquement
Canadians is to
pour
vote
arrêter les
strategically,
grands déficits,
to put
pour
an end
arrêter les
to
hausses
deficits
d'impôts,
and
pour
tax
arrêter
hikes,
un plan
to
pour
put an end
pour l'environnement qui ne
to an
fonctionne
environmental
pas.
plan that
Voter
doesn't work.
stratégiquement de
voting strategically in order to stop Trudeau and the Bloc, and instead vote for me and the Conservative Party.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Olivia Stefanovich with CBC News. You've said if the decision was up to you that you would seek a judicial review on the Human Rights Tribunal ruling ordering Ottawa to compensate First Nations children. Do you believe these kids do not deserve compensation?
Not at all. What I said was that given the scope of the decision and the impacts it would have, that it would be appropriate to have judicial review.
Would you compensate them as Prime Minister?
I believe that, that children who have been mistreated or families that have suffered because of policies of the federal government should absolutely be compensated.
And on another matter, your intention is to repeal the carbon tax legislation that the Trudeau government brought in. Would you consider this a vote of confidence? And if you lose the vote, does that mean to you that you've lost the confidence of the House?
So these types of discussions are all centered around what happens after October 21st. And what I'm focused on between now and October 21st is showing Canadians the choice that is before them. On the one hand, we have a coalition that Canadians cannot afford, that will have to raise taxes for their massive spending promises during this campaign, who will add $40 billion to the deficit. We know what that means. It means more and more of your tax dollar goes to pay the interest on that debt, and that threatens public services like healthcare. On the other hand, we have a Conservative Party that is promising to get back to balanced budgets over a responsible period of time by cutting corporate welfare, by reducing the foreign aid budget, and ending wasteful practices like March Madness in Ottawa. And we are going to return that money to Canadians in the form of tax cuts. Those are the choices before, that is the choice before Canadians. So my appeal to voters between now and October 24th is to give our party a mandate to repeal the carbon tax, to lower taxes, and to get back to balanced budgets.
Good morning, Christy Kirkup with the Globe and Mail. What is your assessment of the current BC government, given that Christy Clark's Liberals secured the most number of seats, but she is not the Premier?
I will leave it to the voters of British Columbia to assess the performance of the current government in British Columbia. My pitch to voters between now and October 21st is to vote for stability, vote for a strong majority government, a Conservative majority government that can get back to balanced budgets, stop borrowing billions and billions of dollars from future generations, from current generations, stop threatening our vital public services, and elect a government that will get back to balanced budgets and lower taxes all along the way.
With all due respect, that isn't what I asked you. I asked you whether the government is legitimate, given that the party that won the most number of seats is not actually in government. Is that legitimate?
As you know, I pointed out yesterday, current modern conventions. I am also pointing out the choice between Canadians, the choice that is before Canadians, the clear choice between a Liberal NDP coalition, a coalition that you cannot afford, a coalition that will run massive deficits, even bigger deficits than Justin Trudeau's running now, because he's going to have to buy off the NDP. And that means higher taxes and threats to vital public services. On the other hand, we have a Conservative platform that will get back to balanced budgets, lower taxes, scrap the carbon tax, build a national energy corridor that can get Western Canadian resources to Eastern Canadian markets, something that the people of New Brunswick here support, the people of Canada all across this country support. That is the choice on October 21st, and I'm asking for a strong mandate so we can implement our agenda.
Hi, Mr. Scheer. Michael Couture with Global National. I wanted to ask you about Brexit and whether or not you think the UK should leave the EU under the terms of the agreement reached between the two sides yesterday, and if so, why?
That is ultimately up to British lawmakers who will make that decision.
Fair enough. I also wanted to ask you about something that this is the first time we're hearing about this today. Your claim that the NDP and Liberals, if they do form a coalition, which they haven't said they will raise the GST. Why are you dabbling in this kind of fear-mongering to voters when nobody has said this of the... Sorry, I'll just finish my question as it was partially interrupted. Are you not misleading people by saying that, like...
Let's let him finish.
And one more time, Where did you get that number from?
We are showing Canadians the types of consequences that they will face with an NDP Liberal coalition. It is quite clear that that is what they are contemplating. It is also clear that they will add billions of dollars to the deficit. And like night follows day, massive Liberal deficits lead to massive Liberal tax hikes. This is exactly what happened in Ontario under Kathleen Wynne and Delta McGuinty. It is what happened. It is what has happened at the federal level under Liberal governments before. So Canadians can now see they will have to do something to pay for these massive deficits. Raising the GST may be one of, is one option. They may raise other taxes. And that is why I say Justin Trudeau needs to have the guts to tell Canadians immediately which tax hikes he will implement, which policies of the NDP he will accept in order to stay in power. He has the obligation to tell Canadians exactly what they are voting for on Monday. Canadians know what they are voting for when they vote Conservative. They are voting for fiscal responsibility, a responsible plan to get back to balanced budgets, and tax cuts that will help make life more affordable so Canadians get ahead. That is the choice on Monday, and I'm asking Canadians for a mandate.
Chris Selly from the National Post. You've promised Quebec all kinds of unique arrangements, more powers over immigration, culture, things like that. These are ideas that tore the Conservative coalition apart in the 1990s. Do you think that the modern Conservative movement, the modern party, and your supporters are united behind this idea of asymmetrical federalism?
I absolutely believe that Conservatives acknowledge that les Québécois forment une nation dans un Canada uni. That's something that our party supported, and there are principles that flow from that. We are the party that believes in decentralization, and we are prepared to sit down with Premier Legault and talk about how the Quebec's culture and its history and its language can be protected within a united Canada. At the same time, we believe in decentralized principles for other provinces. We are the only party that respects provincial jurisdiction, that rejects the Ottawa knows best approach, top-down federal government, and wants to work collaboratively with the premiers. Justin Trudeau is currently fighting several premiers in court. He is literally campaigning in this election by attacking provincial premiers. We will have a cooperative approach and sit down with premiers around the table after this election to get things done for Canadians.
Monsieur Blanchet from the Bloc has said that he would not, help support any kind of minority government that would axe the carbon tax. Can you guarantee your supporters that that is non-negotiable in any kind of scenario that happens after October 21st?
Well, I've made a clear commitment to Canadians. We will introduce legislation to repeal the carbon tax. The carbon tax does not work. It is raising the cost of literally everything from home heating to gasoline to groceries. That is what we were putting forward for Canadians. That is why we're asking for a strong mandate so we can get rid of the carbon tax, lower other taxes, make life more affordable, leave more money in the pockets of Canadians so that Canadians can get ahead.
I was clear with Canadians. Our first piece of legislation will be called the Repeal the Carbon Tax Act, and that is a commitment and a top priority. I cannot speculate on scenarios after October 21st. I'm asking Canadians for a mandate to balance the budget and lower taxes. That is my appeal in the last 3 days of this campaign, and that will be the choice facing Canadians on Monday.
Mr. Scheer, we've heard your pitch to those voters who are not currently decided Conservative, but that's 70% of voters based on current polling. So we've heard your pitch, but what's your message to those voters if they vote the way that they're currently looking and you're forced to put together a minority? What's your message to those voters?
Well, my message to voters who have not yet made up their mind is clearly there is a choice this election. There is a choice between an NDP Liberal coalition that will add billions of dollars to the deficit, threaten the capacity of the federal government to support important services like healthcare, like education, that will raise taxes to pay for it and drive jobs and investment out of this country. I mean, which types of big projects in this country that create jobs will be canceled when the NDP get to start calling the shots? On the other hand, we have the choice of a Conservative majority government that will support our energy sector, that will get big projects built again in this country, that will responsibly balance the budget and lower taxes all along the way. So my message to voters who have not yet made up their mind is vote for a Conservative candidate, vote for our party, so we can make life more affordable and help Canadians get ahead.
Toronto Mayor John Tory has said that he had significant concerns about your platform, specifically around your approach to the opioid crisis and to transit infrastructure. Can you respond to those comments from the mayor yesterday? And more generally, how would you deal with federal-municipal relations at a time when you're going to have to deal with a lot of progressive premiers in big cities?
Well, I've had numerous meetings with Mayor Tory. We've had very productive conversations, and I would remind him that it is only the Conservative Party. I am the only federal leader that has made a full commitment, an unequivocal commitment to the Ontario and Yonge Line expansions. That is something that is very important to the people of Toronto, and my commitment is that we will ensure that the overall amount for spending on infrastructure is protected. At the same time, I would remind him that we are the only party that is talking about cracking down on gang violence, and that is a problem all over the GTA, and we are going to go after the real criminals, the members of gangs, and the drug and firearms traffickers. That we are the only party that will make our communities in the GTA and all over Canada safer by going after real criminals.
Bonjour, Monsieur Scheer. Catherine Lévesque, la presse canadienne.
Catherine Lévesque,
Vous allez
presse
faire un dernier blitz au Québec
canadienne.
tout à
You
l'heure.
will
Je me
be
demandais qu'est-ce qui a pas
doing a
fonctionné dans
final
votre stratégie pour
blitz
que vous
in
vous
Quebec
retrouviez en
later.
troisième place, loin
Why
derrière le Bloc
has your
québécois et
strategy
les
not worked? You're in third
Nous
place
sommes
behind the
très
bloc.
contents avec notre campagne,
We're very
au
happy
Québec.
with our campaign in
Et,
Quebec.
nous avons des candidats
And we have extraordinary candidates. We have a platform for Quebec that is quite exceptional.
Comme nous avons
And
vu dans les
as we
autres
have
élections, comme
seen
les précédentes,
in other elections, we are very optimistic about making gains in Quebec. But what exactly did not work? Was it your position on abortion? Was it secularism? Was it pipelines? Well, we'll see on Monday what the results of the election are, and we're quite confident that Quebecers want a government that will balance the budget, protect, and not just protect, but enhance the French fact and Quebec culture. And we are the only party that can provide results in that area. I'm the only candidate running to be Prime Minister that wants to introduce a single tax return. I'm the only candidate running to be Prime Minister that will ban the practice of dumping waste into our rivers. So I'm very confident about the results on Monday. Now, for Montreal, some $800 million is earmarked for the tramway in Quebec. Are you committing to allowing that to go ahead? We made a commitment that all the projects that have already been approved will go forward, and that one will go forward as well.
Stephanie Levitz from the Canadian Press. You've talked a lot about a Liberal NDP sort of coalition, but in this particular riding that we're in, the Green Party is a major factor. What's your assessment of that party and the platform they're offering to Canadians?
Well, you know, when you look at the types of job-killing policies that they would bring in, the types of projects that they would cancel, leading to thousands of people being put out of work, the massive spending that is contained in their platform as well, we can see that if those policies are adopted too, it will be even more costlier for Canadians. And so, again, we see on the one hand a coalition between the Liberals and the NDP, and perhaps supported by the Green Party, that will lead to massive new deficits and tax hikes to pay for it, or a strong Conservative majority mandate that will balance the budget, return the money to taxpayers in the form of tax cuts. And
with respect to the Quebec tramway, I just want to add that we are the only party that is in favor of the third link. And I'm sure that people in Quebec want that third link, and we are the only party that can form a government and provide that third link to the Quebec City area.
Is a bit outside of Canada's borders. The situation in Syria. To what extent is Donald Trump's abandonment of Syria to blame and for paving the way for Turkish invasion? And do you think Turkey should remain a member of NATO?
Well, I will say that I believe it was the wrong decision to leave the Kurds. These are people who fought alongside us in the fight against ISIS. And I can say that as Prime Minister of Canada, I will certainly expect all members of NATO to respect human rights and international law.
Bonjour, Monsieur Scheer, Mathieu Roy-Comeau de l'Acadie Nouvelle.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Abortion was a significant topic in Fredericton. Do you think that New Brunswick is abiding by the Canada Health Act by not providing enough access to abortion? I can tell you that the situation in New Brunswick did not change after the Liberal government. And Justin Trudeau only started talking about this after the provincial election and in this campaign. So do you believe the Canada Health Act forces the province to provide access to abortions outside the province? As I said, this is an issue that has not changed since there was a Liberal government here in New Brunswick. And it was only as part of the federal campaign that Justin Trudeau tried to play petty politics. We will always support the Canada Health Act, and we will increase investments in healthcare services by at least 3%. That is our commitment to Canadians.
Yeah, so I will note that nothing has changed in the province of New Brunswick in terms of this policy from the previous Liberal government here provincially, and it is only during this federal election campaign and with a progressive Conservative government provincially that Justin Trudeau is trying to make this an issue. So it's quite clear he's trying to play politics with this issue. Our commitment to Canadians is that we will increase funding for healthcare services by at least 3% every year.
Aidan Cox, Daily Gleaner. You said today and yesterday that modern convention means that Trudeau must quit if he doesn't win the most seats. What about in the last provincial election we saw here, where Higgs had to wait his turn to allow Gallant to attempt to maintain confidence of the legislature?
Well, as I mentioned, I was pointing to modern Canadian history at the federal level where prime ministers who came out of the election with fewer seats followed that practice. Now, what we're talking about now is in the last few days, I will leave it to pundits to do their punditry about what might happen after October 21st. Right now, it's important that Canadians understand they have a choice between a Liberal NDP coalition that will run massive deficits, even bigger deficits than Justin Trudeau, that those deficits will threaten important public services, and that coalition government will have to raise taxes to pay for it. And again, I challenge Justin Trudeau to be crystal clear with Canadians. If he believes that he will have a right to govern this country with the NDP supporting him, he needs to have the courage and the backbone to show Canadians exactly which taxes he will hike. Because if he does not, then Canadians will know that he doesn't have the courage to explain exactly what it is he's proposing. On the other hand, a Conservative platform that is fully costed, that shows exactly how we'll get back to balanced budget, is the best way to help Canadians get ahead. We will lower taxes, we will put more money in the pockets of Canadians to help them get ahead. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Thanks.